Before I call on Senator Aisling Dolan, could I welcome Senator Aisling Dolan's family to the Distinguished Visitors Gallery, her father and mother and the brothers, I'm sure involved in all the campaign, and the first, and just to let you know, she is doing a great job in Shanadairn on behalf of her constituency. Could I now call on Senator Aisling Dolan? Senator Dolan, you have 4 minutes.
And could I welcome the Minister
for Foreign Affairs to the House to answer this question?
Thank you very much, and very kind. Thank you. It is a great honour to have my family here today, so thank you. Really very much welcome Minister Simon Coveney here today to speak on EU plans to support the people of the Ukraine and the measures to be put in place to mitigate against the potential impact of sanctions in relation to energy and grain costs. This is potentially the most devastating European conflict since World War II for over 41 million people in the Ukraine. The second largest country on the European continent after Russia, an independent country since the dissolution of the Soviet Republic in 1991. Valuable access to the Black Sea, bordered by 7 countries, Russia, Belarus, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania and Moldova. And here we see Russia sending in so-called peacekeepers to a sovereign country and declaring the provinces of Donetsk and Luhansk as independent. Minister, as you have stated, Ireland's support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity within its internationally recognised borders and its right to choose its own foreign and security policy path is unwavering. Minister, in terms of diplomacy and the outright aggression we see now by Russia, could you give an update on how the EU plans to support the safety of the Ukrainian people? Presidents of the European Commission and the European Council say this is illegal and unacceptable, violates international law, Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty. But what can be done here for financial assistance? At a trade level, only recently the BBC pointed to how Russia has been setting up large foreign exchange reserves, up to $630 billion, to sanction-proof its economy since sanctions received in 2014 over Crimea. In relation to sanctions, Russia, we're aware, supplies a huge amount, nearly 40 to 50% of gas to Europe. And recent sanctions, Germany suspending the Nord Stream 2 gas line, even in the last couple of days, huge increases in barrels of oil prices, close to $100 a barrel. Also, Minister, Russia and Ukraine account for nearly 1/3 of grain. Incredible when it comes to the wheat exports and the impacts to costs of food prices. In terms of the exports in grain, and specifically wheat production, Russia itself has surpassed itself. In 2000, it produced around 30 million tonnes a year, exporting only 696,000 tonnes. In 2010, it doubled that production to 60 million tonnes, exporting 18. In 2020, a record 85 million tonnes and exporting 35 million. It has a huge part to play in global markets in relation to food. The Ukraine, again, exporting here over 24 million tonnes. Together, they account for over 1/3 of the world market. Minister, with so many Russian troops surrounding the Ukraine, incursion into Donetsk and Luhansk, and the potential for a full-scale invasion, from an Irish perspective, could you please give an update on your recent meeting that you held in Brussels and the plan ahead with these potential economic impacts? I acknowledge the incredible work by your Department of Foreign Affairs and, of course, strong support from Senator Mary Siri Carney, of course, for Irish families involved in surrogacy at the moment. But, Minister, how do we, as a small nation with a strong voice and a seat on the UN Security Council, support democracy? Gormagat.
Thank you very much, Ciarán, and can I welcome this opportunity and also welcome Senator Aisling Dolan's family here to the Seanad with us today. They should be very proud of their sister and daughter in the context of the role that she continues to play in this House. At the Foreign Affairs Council on Monday, we decided to provide €1.2 billion in macro financial assistance to Ukraine. We hope that this package will assist the government and the people of Ukraine in addressing some of the difficulties that the Russian military build-up in and around their country, which has been destabilised, has been destabilising their economy and society, is causing. The EU is one of the largest humanitarian donors to eastern Ukraine. Since 2014, the European Union and its member states have contributed over €1 billion in humanitarian and early recovery aid to support the needs of people in the areas directly affected by the conflict and those who have fled conflict areas. A lot of people don't realise it, but there has been an ongoing war in eastern Ukraine which has claimed the lives of about 14,000 people in recent years. The EU is advancing its contingency planning in the event of increased levels of need in the coming weeks. On the 15th of February, the State Emergency Service of Ukraine advocated that the EU civil protection mechanism requesting in-kind assistance, including medical and shelter supplies and communications equipment, to be triggered. Ireland is among a number of EU member states who responded to this request with an offer of medical supplies. Russia's decision in the last 2 days regarding the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts is totally unacceptable. The decision is illegal. It violates Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty. It also breaches the UN Charter. In order to uphold international law, the EU must react in a firm and proportionate manner, in coordination with its partners, and Ireland has therefore expressed strong support for EU sanctions. The package of sanctions under discussion by EU foreign ministers targets those responsible for these decisions, as well as those involved in the defence sector and in disinformation. Financial measures target the banks financing Russian decision-makers and cut off access to the EU's capital and financial markets for the Russian Central Bank. Economic relations between the breakaway parts of Donetsk and Luhansk and the EU will also be targeted. These measures are proportionate and absolutely necessary in our view. Additional measures, of course, will be taken if the situation escalates further. The impact of sanctions on energy and food prices remains to be seen, particularly in the light of any additional sanctions that the EU may impose or retaliatory measures by Russia, which undoubtedly will happen too. We know that sanctions will not be cost-free for Ireland or other EU member states, but we are left with little choice given Russia's behaviour. There is absolutely no way the EU, along with the US and the UK and many others, can stand idly by and watch a country with the power of Russia simply ignoring the sovereignty of their neighbouring state and constructing a basis for sending in so-called peacekeepers arriving in tanks and attack helicopters. These are not peacekeepers. This is about essentially, as the US President has described, carving out part of Ukraine and Russia taking that by force. And unfortunately, in the two regions that we are talking about, separatists are now going to be supported by the Russian military, not only to secure the area that they already control, but actually, because they already only control about a third of those two regions, we are looking now at the potential of very serious conflict between Russia and Ukraine in relation to the remaining areas of those two regions that are currently controlled by Ukraine. So this is an escalating and very worrying situation. Ireland's role in this has got to be to support EU collective action, but also to insist constantly on a diplomatic intervention, because ultimately we're trying to prevent war here, not plan for how we would respond to war when it takes place. And the priority has got to be to prevent it happening in the first place, and that's why intensive diplomatic engagement has also got to be part of this strategy, as well as deterrent through increased sanctions.
Margaret. Senator Dolan.
Thank you so much, Minister. Your time is so valuable, and I really appreciate you giving it to us here this morning. I welcome the acknowledgement of funding over 1.2 billion in macro-financial assistance to the Ukraine, and also in terms of cyber defence. That is crucial, as I believe there is huge destabilisation happening in Ukraine at the moment. But I mean, it is crucial, Minister, I suppose, that we realise that the sanctions have to be effective. They have to change a course of action, and as you have said, it is about ensuring that we have peace in the Ukraine and that we are all working towards that goal. But in the face of this outright aggression, I suppose we have to ensure that those sanctions have immediate impact in terms of Russian economy and trade, and I believe that that probably is the way, and as you've mentioned as well with the EU and targeting banks and so on, that this is probably how this is going to go forward. But it is, we are in the eye of the storm, Minister, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing, both on the EU and with the foreign ministers and also in terms of the UN. So, Gurmil Magat.
Yeah, thank you. And we will continue to be vocal at an EU level and also on the UN Security Council, where I think our view has been made very clear and in many ways directly supported also by the Secretary General of the UN as well, who I think has been very clear as to how the UN sees what's happening here as a complete breach of international law and the UN Charter. And Russia has to bear the responsibility for that. There is no justification for this in the context of Russia's security concerns and so on. And the EU has made it very clear that they are, of course, willing to enter dialogue with Russia in terms of security matters more generally across Europe. And that offer, I think, is still there. But effectively claiming portions of Ukraine and publicly saying that you no longer recognize Ukraine's sovereignty has got to trigger a response by the international community, and that is what's happening now. So I want to thank Senator Dolan for raising this issue in the Seanad today. As the Senator appreciates, it's essential that at this crucial time for European security, the EU stands staunch and unwavering in support for Ukraine's sovereignty. This means macro-financial assistance, as I've outlined, and it also means sanctions on Russia should that be necessary, and they will increase if necessary. It's true that there may be some economic cost arising from these sanctions. Impacts could arise in particular from possible Russian counter-sanctions and from the likely fall in the value of the ruble, making Irish exports more expensive, and from economic impacts across European trading partners as well. The government is preparing appropriate contingency plans to mitigate potential impacts to the Irish economy, and we've had a number of meetings on that across government departments. Sanctions will not be cost-free for Ireland and other EU member states, but I think we are left with little choice given Russia's behaviour and stated intentions. The cost of ignoring such behaviour would, in the end, in my view, be far greater for everybody. So I hope that in the coming days we will find mechanisms that can de-escalate some of the language of the last number of days and some of the actions behind that. But I have to say there is an increasing sense of pessimism in terms of where this is moving now. And as I say, hopefully that pessimism can be reversed. But for now, I think the focus has to be on appropriate sanctions, but preparedness to go much further if we need to act as a further deterrent, and an intensive approach towards diplomatic intervention as well.
Thank you, Minister. Well done, Senator. Very timely motion. So, are you taking the next one, Senator? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Very good.